Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. This is the question and answer session for April 30th. Public Health Director Annette Rodriguez and Dr. Chris Bird will be addressing questions received this week. Please feel free to add your follow-up questions to chat. Today's topics: vaccine clinics, the Texas DSHS grant, kids and COVID, and our healthy lifestyle champion, Dr. Bird.
All right, thanks, Jason. So, Annette, how are the vaccinations going this week?
You know, we had a really good week, and part of that was because a month ago we had vaccinated so many individuals, had given them their first doses. It was time for them to come back. So we're finding that most people do come back for their second dose. We have just over 5% of people that don't come back for their second dose, and that's really actually very good. Because some of those can even be from outside of our jurisdiction, so they go somewhere else. But on Tuesday and Wednesday, we did about 2,000 vaccines for those days. And so that was between Richard Orchard Fairgrounds and the mall, but that's still very good. And the mall's still consistently seeing people at least 300 per day, usually anywhere up to 800 people a day. And so it's still exciting at the mall. We love the consistency. We love first doses coming in. People are starting to come in for J&J as well. So we're kind of seeing an uptick since I came back on Monday.
All right, so if somebody wants to get vaccinated in the next week in the Coastal Bend, where can they do that?
Well, they can definitely come to the mall. The mall is open from 10 to 8 every day, except on Sunday. It's open from 11 to 6. We're also at the Bug Days Carnival, and so we're there starting today from 5 to 8. If you get vaccinated, you don't have to pay to get in, and I think it's $6 to get in. So we can vaccinate you. We can give you a voucher, and you can go in through the gate for free. So that's only if you haven't already been vaccinated. We don't want to vaccinate you a third time for a free meal through the gate. So other than that, we'll be at the Boys and Girls Club on Tuesday between 9 and 1. That's a walkthrough. So if you're in that area around the Boys and Girls Club around the Greenwood Drive, between 9 and 1, you're welcome to stop by there, and we're doing vaccines there as well. But mostly the mall and Bug Days this coming week.
Okay. All right. One person's wondering if they can get their 2 vaccination cards combined into a single card, and if they can do that, where can they do that?
Absolutely. The easiest place to do that would be to bring those 2 cards to the mall, La Palmera Mall. We're right behind P.F. Chang's. We're in the old Charming Charlie's building. And so just walk in there with your 2 vaccination cards, and we'll take one of those cards and we'll make it one for you. So we'll put the other one on that first card, and then you'll just have one card. The only thing we ask of you, and we're noticing a lot of people haven't done, is put your name and date of birth on it. It is your card. We just didn't do it for you because we were trying to speed through. We had so many people. We vaccinated, I think, well over 114,000. So we didn't stop to put your name and date of birth, but since you know it, put it on there, your name and date of birth, because that's your official vaccination card from CBC.
Okay. And do you take the 2 cards then and dispose of them, or do people get to keep the original 2 cards?
Well, we're going to take the 2 cards, and we're going to use one of those cards, and we're going to make it to have both dates on there. So
understood.
So instead of wasting a third one, because all of these cost. The first one is free from CDC. The second one we gave because we thought the best way to do it was just to give them another card. But then we ended up running out of CDC vaccination cards, so we ended up having to pay. And some of these cards cost us $8,000-$9,000 to print.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to take your 2 cards, and we're going to take one of them. We're going to add the information from the second card onto that one card. Instead of giving you a third card, we're just going to use those so we can save some money.
That makes sense. Right. Let's see. There's a topic here on the Texas DSHS grant. And the question is, congratulations on the grant from the Texas Department of State Health Services. How will the grant be used locally?
Yes, so it is really exciting. This is a grant specifically for vaccination efforts. And the value of the grant is $18 million. $73,609. And there's several different categories that we're going to be using the funds for, but to be honest with you, the lion's share of the funding is going to contractual, to hire temps to help us vaccinate more people in different locations. Those areas that we're having trouble, people coming to us, we're going to have to start going to them, wherever that is. It could be in little areas, more rural areas of the county. Wherever it is that we're seeing we're lacking in vaccinating, that's where we need to go. So we'll be hiring temps, and then we'll move forward. But part of the grant is for education, and so not just educating the community, even though we could use some of the funds for that as well, like for advertisement on billboards, etc., those types of things, or on at bus stops, so signage basically, or flyers basically, or videos telling people, how important it is to get vaccinated. I think there's still a lot of misinformation out there about your DNA and what can happen, and if you're pregnant, what can happen to the baby. And so we need more of these educational type videos or PSAs to go out. But part of the education component is to the providers. And so we're always looking to get more providers, because we know that the most trusted source for being vaccinated is your own doctor. That's where you feel comfortable. You go to your doctor for everything, and you can tell them personal information, and you feel comfortable there. So we're really going to work hard to try to get more providers on board, and so they give us funding for that as well, so we can educate the providers, work with them, maybe even like hands-on to try to help them sign up as a provider. So we also have money for equipment. We have about $125,000 for equipment, and about $300,000 for supplies. And again, these are supplies that you need just to keep vaccinating. Whether it's syringes, because I don't know if people know, but the syringes come in different sizes and different shapes, because they're sending these syringes out across the world. And so some syringes, people have heard, are very long syringes. They're like, wow, I got the big needle, and some are small. Mm-hmm. We like the smaller needles because you don't waste any vaccine inside the needle. They're called dead space needles or syringes. And so we would be buying some of those. We'd be buying personal protective equipment for our staff. So, but anything that we need to administer vaccine would be what we could use the other funds for.
All right, that sounds great. The next topic is on kids and COVID, and is there anything you can tell us about all the things we're seeing in the news? There seems to be a lot of news right now about kids and COVID. What can you tell us about that?
I think the most important thing right now to mention about kids and COVID is that kids are not protected against the COVID vaccine, the virus. There is no vaccine for kids, and I'm talking about specifically under the age of 16, because everybody knows that 16 and up can be covered with Pfizer vaccine. But even that, 16 and 17, many of them are not getting vaccinated. So these kids are really unprotected. They're walking around unprotected. I think many times the families are so excited, with all of the new guidelines and the new updates and recommendations from CDC. CDC recently said that if you're fully vaccinated, you can go outdoors if it's a small event, and you can take off your mask. But they're also trying to remind you your kids are not fully vaccinated. And so those kids still need to be wearing a mask for protection. And I think we just forget. We're excited because, they're not eligible to get vaccinated. So we just include them like they're part of us. But they aren't. They aren't part of that group. And so you have to continue to make sure that they wear a mask and that they're protected. I've been talking about the last few weeks, we started to see cases at the Children's Hospital. And that's because of this, because they're not protected. They're going out more with other people that aren't wearing masks. And we don't know, again, if you're in a congregate setting, you don't know if they've been vaccinated or if they haven't been vaccinated. So CDC says if you're in a congregate setting, you still should wear a mask, even if you're fully vaccinated. And I think that's good advice, because I think that reminds us that our kids need to wear masks as well, because they are not vaccinated and they have no protection. And we're all worried about the variants, and so continue to remind each other to take care of those kiddos and make sure that they're wearing masks and that they're washing their hands very well. And keeping them away from congregate settings is actually one of the better ways to keep them from getting ill.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges here when it comes to kids and COVID right now is that we've experienced a year of messaging that kids don't get COVID or they don't get it very bad. But with these new variants, COVID's evolving and changing. Uh, Everybody essentially, if they contract one of these new variants, is generally going to be sicker than if they had contracted one of the original variants. And so that's why we're seeing some of these increases in the rate of hospitalization for children. And COVID's not staying the same. So just because it wasn't as much of a problem last year doesn't mean that it's still like that. Now, um, we're not trying to cause a lot of fear or anything out there. It's just that they are more virulent now. There's more children going to the hospital now than in the past. It's still a low percentage. But kids are not immune to COVID. So I think it's important that everybody realize that.
That's correct. And yesterday, we were notified of 6 additional variant cases in Nueces County. So now we're up to 17, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but these are just the ones that we know of. And also you have to remember that they only test about maybe a little over 10% now, but about 10% of the specimens that are submitted. And so, we only have a little tip of the iceberg, so to speak, on what we know, how many actual B117 variant cases we have in Nueces County. So now we're up to 17 cases that we know of.
Yeah, the way that I'm certain that we have a lot of those cases is that I've had to change our model parameters since the end of January to account for a seemingly higher rate of hospitalizations and fatalities for those contracting COVID in the first place. The model wouldn't fit right anymore if we went with the same hospitalization and fatality rates from November and December and January. And that's right about the time when we were told that the variants were increasing in prevalence. And so I see at least anecdotal data, information that's indicating that COVID is causing more problems for those that are contracting it than before. Let's see, healthy lifestyle check-in. So how'd you do this past week? And you've been exercising?
I have been actually. I've been bike riding in the evening, and so that's been a lot of fun. I'm glad I'm doing that right now. So I'm still trying to figure out how many miles I'm going. I'm getting there. So how did you do? Are you still doing well?
Yeah, I rode in New York City yesterday morning on my virtual biking platform. And I'm doing a lot of work in the yard, a lot of landscaping in the spring, and our lawn got destroyed by the deep freeze, so I'm trying to revive it. So that turns into a lot of mowing and a lot of labor. So between those things, I think I'm doing pretty good on my at least 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week. I've got way more than that.
Good. So is Times Square full?
Uh,
Virtually.
when I'm riding virtually, I tend to do computer work at the same time, so I kind of don't pay attention to where I'm riding. I'm more like reading emails or something,
Okay, got it.
multitasking.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Tiffany and Jason, have we gotten any questions from the audience this week?
It's not a question, but it's a comment.
Okay.
At Walgreens, someone tested their husband for COVID, and it was supposed to be a 24-hour result, but they came in 5 days later.
Oh, okay. So maybe that was a PCR test. Maybe it wasn't a rapid. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, President Net and Tiffany. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, especially if you submitted a question. In the Q&A, there's no Q without you. To that point, please share this with your friends. There's no telling who you might help by sharing the information. The next task force report will be uploaded tomorrow to social media. Please join us every Friday at noon for the question and answer session. Please remember to direct questions or comments to @CBCovid on social media. Have a wonderful and very safe weekend. Stay dry.